Hello, everybody, and welcome to a little segment here of the podcast. What Les wanted me to talk about was Tulane getting two high profile wide receivers. And, I thought about this long and hard. And I don't know what else I can say. I mean, I feel like I'm just beating a dead horse. I feel like we're doing the definition of insanity, which is repeating and doing the same thing over and over again. When I say that, this is just what we expected to happen. It's very clear that the Big Ten and the SEC are operating on a different level, and that's fine. But players want to play, and they'll go where they can get playing time, and they'll go where they need to go. And a program like Tulane and the AAC getting some players like that, it makes sense. I mean, they've been successful as of late. I mean, we all remember what they did to USC a few years ago. They lost Willie Fritz, so Houston. Now he's in the Big 12. So it is an impressive move for a team that lost its leader to make a move like that at Tulane. So, yeah, I mean, what else can you say about it? It's just a microcosm of what we've been saying before, where, yes, the big boys do have an advantage. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to act like it's all roses and rainbows. But still, players want to play, and they'll put themselves into positions, regardless where it is, to ball out. So that's really all I have to say about that. I mean, I feel like I've talked about this ad nauseum, and you're probably tired of hearing it, but there it is again. So instead, we're going to investigate why Tulane is the Green Wave. Yes, their mascot is the Green Wave, and that hails back to 1920 when they adopted it from a song called, and I quote, The Rolling Green Wave, which was published in the school newspaper, the Tulane Hullabaloo, in 1920. Prior to that, they were known as the Olive and Blues because those were the school's colors. And because of the green of their uniforms, they were often called the Greenbacks by people who attended the school. But that song in 1920, which was published in that newspaper, The Rolling Green Wave, is why Tulane is now the Green Wave. And there's your little fun fact of the day about mascots, because that's what you came here to hear, right? And so, just to make this a little bit longer and round it out, I'm going to talk about something else too that's happened this week, which is coaches. What are they doing? Because, in case you didn't know, Alabama played Missouri earlier this week, and Nate Oates touched another player from Missouri who was kind of, let's not kid ourselves, intruding on the Alabama huddle. And of course, we have Rodney Terry, or as I like to call him, Giancarlo Esposito Jr., getting mad at some players from Central Florida after they upset Texas doing the infamous horns down and calling it classless and this, that, and the other thing. And frankly, my opinion on that would be, in the Nate Oates case, don't touch another player. I know he's kind of being annoying, being in your huddle, trying to see what you're doing, but never touch another player. You just kind of give him a stern look, stand by him if you have to, but don't touch. That's a line. But that's for the horns down thing. We've seen stuff like this with Louisville, in our Ohio Valley neck of the woods, when Scott Satterfield freaked out about Kentucky football players doing the L's down after their big rivalry game. And since that point, I have seen more L's down than at any point prior in my life. I mean, I barely knew that was like a symbol up until that point. But when Scott Satterfield complained about that after that game, we saw L's. I see L's down everywhere. Even Wake Forest, I bet, when they tip off here at noon, is going to do an L's down at some point because now they know. And with Texas, I feel like you've committed the same cardinal sin. Now, everyone knew before, and now they're really going to do it because they know it's a psychological thing. They're going to try to get in your head with it. They don't care if they look classless or not. They want to win, and that's the thing. So when it comes to stuff like this, I'm an Indiana fan. We don't have a symbol. We don't even have a freaking mascot, but we should bring back the bison. That's all I got to say. We don't have a mascot. We don't really have any hand symbols, but, if a Purdue player did something like that and they won, and like they did this week going away by 22 points, I have no problem with that. You played great. You played out of your mind. You got the upset. Talk your shit, as the kids say. That's all you can do. I mean, that's how you celebrate a victory. You're excited. And let's not forget these guys are young, too. They're young. They're prone, to be a little bit hot-headed, to be a little bit young. They've got that zeal, that lust for life. And for a team like Central Florida, you're playing yourself into the picture, potentially, for an NCAA tournament berth. And, Texas, we can talk about Texas later, they're also trying to do that, so their emotions are also running high. They had a huge transfer class, they had some depth issues, And, it's starting to bite them in the ass a little bit now that we're in the Big 12 conference play. But still, we've got to remember that these guys are young. These guys are excitable. These guys got a huge win. For UCF especially, you're in a new conference, for goodness sake. You are trying to establish yourself as a potential rival for recruits, as a potential rival for TV spots. You're just trying to get yourself in there. So I understand where Rodney Terry's coming from, acting like, that's classless, that's this, that's that. But, people know from prior things that they can get under your skin with the horns down, and they're celebrating that. And they're celebrating a big win. So, sometimes you just have to let bygones be bygones and just move. You're like, if a Purdue player did that to Indiana, I would just be like, well, okay. It's more of like a rivalry thing. It's where your blood starts to boil. And UCF, new to the conference, just got a big win. They're not really a rival, and now I guarantee they're going to do it even more than they were before. And now finally, because we are the sports off-season podcast, there is another sport in the off-season right now, and it's one of my passion projects. It has nothing to do with college athletics, but I want to talk about it anyway, which is on Tuesday, the 23rd of January, we will finally find out who got into the Baseball Hall of Fame class of 2024. Adrian Beltre, of course, of the Dodgers and Rangers, primarily 3,000 hit club member, is a shoo-in to get in. But what I am absolutely loving seeing is the fact we have at least 3 other guys, maybe 4, who are also now contending to get into baseball. And what I want to talk about here is how people have the small versus big hall discussions. And I completely understand why people want a small baseball hall. I mean, we have internalized baseball as America's pastime. There are songs about it. There's this, that, and the other thing. But at the same time, nobody complains about the NFL Hall of Fame inducting 7 to 10 guys a year. And the happiest I've seen Jaguar fans in a while was when Tony Boselli got in a couple years ago, who had a great career, don't get me wrong. It was short-lived due to injury, but still had a great career, got honored, and people were over the moon excited about it. And I'm watching now as Todd Helton, the first baseman, of course, and here's our college football connection, former Tennessee football player, is now in line to possibly be inducted this year, but is facing an uphill battle, mostly from people who are using the infamous Coors Field inflated stats to keep him out of the Hall of Fame. And, the guy's a 5-time All-Star. He's got the stats. Just don't worry about guys like that. When you have a small hall, you're pretty much, I understand what you're saying. You're saying that only the best of the best get in. But sometimes you just have to take a step back and be like, we have teams here who have had really good players who haven't gotten in. And they need to get in because they have the stats, they can compete, and we're keeping them out for some silly-ish reasons. So I think Todd Helton needs to get in. And then, of course, Gary Sheffield, Alex Rodriguez, Manny Ramirez. We all know that. I've told you the Matt theory 1,000 times, and I love it, and I will always love expounding upon it, which is we need to have a steroid-era ballot. Just one-time voting, 16 guys, top 6 get in. And, you don't even have to have a ceremony. Just put them on a plaque and get them in the Hall of Fame because we can't act like Manny Ramirez didn't exist anymore. We can't even act like Gary Sheffield, who's sitting at 74.7% of the ballot right now, didn't exist because he's got 500 home runs. We just can't act like these guys didn't exist, even if they did violate a rule, which really wasn't a rule at the time. So my position on that hasn't changed in years, which is we just need a steroid-era ballot for 1 year. We just need to get those guys in. You don't even have the ceremony, put their plaques in the back of the hall if you want. But we just can't act like a whole era of baseball, which had the highest viewership numbers and the most intrigue from the American public in a long time, never really happened. And we also have to be more mindful when we let some of these guys from lesser-known teams get in. They've got good stats. I'm not saying you have to let in Ubaldo Jimenez or anything like that. No. But if a guy has really good numbers, exceptional numbers even, and your big thing is they played in the wrong stadium or, they didn't win enough, I don't agree with that. Even the small fan bases need to have moments of joy. So I'm really rooting for Todd Helton. Adrian Beltre is going to get in. Joe Mauer is a real surprise for me. I thought he would do well. I even thought he might get in, but the way he's trending now as a first ballot Hall of Famer, it even makes me sadder because he's one of those what could have been guys to me. If he would have been healthy his whole career, God knows what he would have been capable of. And Billy Wagner, who, a reliever, we have a tendency, relievers and punters, man, just don't get enough respect. They just don't. And I mean, I know we can argue all day about athleticism and all that stuff and pitch count, but relievers and punters, they don't get no respect. We need a punter ballot for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. One year we just induct 4 punters as like a special class because, my God, Reggie Roby deserves a Hall of Fame. And I'm serious about that. I am. But that's enough Hall of Fame talk for now. So 3 big points. Number 1, Tulane once again proving Les and I's theory about constant motion, the kinetic actions of college athletics and how NIL and all that. Well, it does matter, but at the same time, it doesn't. Coaches, don't feed the bear, don't poke the bear, don't feed the trolls. Just, keep moving. Be angry internally, be angry with your team, use that as internal motivation. But the minute you let that out in public, it's kind of At Baseball Hall of Fame, more exciting than ever. Let's expand that hall a little bit, though, just to be nice. And this is Matt, your favorite mid-major mascot expert and occasional ranter, signing off for another edition of the podcast. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, be sure to like and subscribe. Yada, yada, yada. Whatever Les says. Texas, Duke, we're out.